There is a particular kind of silence that settles over a college town in the small hours before dawn. The bars have emptied. The last cars have rolled out of the parking lots. The street lights hum over sidewalks that only hours before were crowded with the laughter of students who believed, as the young so often do, that they had all the time in the world. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, September 7th, 2012. In an apartment complex just off the edge of campus, a phone alarm would soon begin to ring and ring and ring. Answer it. Her name was Faith Hedgepeth. She was 19 years old. A member of the Haliwa-Saponi tribe, she had grown up in the small community of Hollister, the kind of place where everyone knew her name, where her family's roots ran generations deep into the soil. She was the first in her immediate family to chase a 4-year degree, and she chased it with everything she had. She wanted to be a doctor. She wanted to come home and care for the very people who had raised her. Friends remembered a girl who could light up a room simply by walking into it, quick to laugh, quicker to forgive, the kind of person who made strangers feel like they had always belonged. She had her whole life mapped out ahead of her. A sophomore at the University of North Carolina. A scholarship she had fought to keep. A future that by every measure was just beginning. But in the dim quiet of that apartment on Old Durham Road, that future was about to be stolen. Violently, deliberately, and by a hand that would remain unknown for nearly a decade. When her roommate returned home that morning and pushed open the bedroom door, she found a scene so brutal, so impossibly wrong, that it would haunt this community for years to come. Faith was gone, and the questions left behind would outnumber the answers for a very, very long time. Who was the last person to see her alive? Why would anyone want to harm a 19-year-old girl with no enemies, no debts, no secrets that anyone could name? And what did the killer leave behind? An innate note, scrawled and chilling. This is a story about a life cut tragically short. It is a story about a family that refused, about a town that lit candles and held its breath, about detectives who carried a single case for nearly 10 years, chasing a phantom through a forest of dead ends and false leads. And it is a story about science, about the patient, relentless march of forensic technology that would, in time, do what human memory could not. This is the murder of Faith Hedgepeth, and this is how they finally found the truth. Here's a continuation of the narration. I've kept it grounded in the documented facts of the case. And so the questions only multiplied. In the days after September 7th, 2012, the campus of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill moved through a fog of disbelief. Faith Hedgepeth, 19 years old, a sophomore, a daughter of the Haliwa-Saponi tribe who had dreamed of becoming a pediatrician, had been found beaten to death inside her off-campus apartment on Old Chapel Hill Road. She was discovered by her roommate that morning. The violence done to her was severe. The scene, investigators would later say, was chaotic. But it was what the killer left behind that would come to haunt the case for nearly a decade. On a fast food paper bag near Faith's body, written in pen, was a message, crude, angry, and unsigned. Investigators would withhold its exact wording for years, releasing it to the public only later in the hope that someone, somewhere, might recognize the handwriting. They never did. The note became one of the most studied pieces of evidence in North Carolina history, dissecting sleuths alike, and yet it pointed to no one. What the killer did not realize was that he had left something else behind. Patient DNA. For years, that genetic profile sat in the database, an unknown male, unmatched to any offender on record. Detectives chased leads, cleared persons of interest, and watched promising threads dissolve into nothing. Faith's family marked birthdays and anniversaries without answers. Each September, the candlelight vigils returned, and each September the question remained the same. Who did this to Faith? The answer, when it finally came, did not arrive through a confession or a witness. It arrived through science, through the same advancing forensic techniques that had begun to crack open the coldest of cases across the country. In September of 2021, almost exactly 9 years after Faith was killed, investigators announced an arrest. The man's name was Miguel Enrique Salguero Olivares. As investigators reflected on the case of Faith Danielle Hedgepeth, they couldn't help but consider the questions that still lingered. One theory holds that the killer may have been someone Faith knew, given the lack of forced entry into her apartment. The family has suggested that Faith's outgoing personality and trusting nature may have made her more vulnerable to attack. The exact wording of the note left on the fast food paper bag near Faith's body remains a topic of discussion, with some speculating that it may have been a red herring intended to mislead investigators. On September 7, 2012, discovered her body, and the subsequent investigation would go on to become one of the most extensive in North Carolina history. Hedgepeth is now considered solved, with Miguel Enrique Salguero Olivares having been arrested and charged in connection with her murder. However, the family and investigators still have unanswered questions, such as what motivated the killer and whether there were any other individuals involved. Court records show that Salguero Olivares' DNA was matched to the crime scene, but the exact circumstances surrounding the murder remain unclear. As the family of Faith Danielle Hedgepeth continues to heal, they have expressed gratitude for the advances in forensic technology that ultimately led to the identification of the perpetrator. In recent years, the case has been the subject of several documentaries and podcasts, including a retrospective that aired on the 9th anniversary of Faith's death. Faith Danielle Hedgepeth's memory lives on through the countless lives she touched during her time at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The current state of the case is one of cautious resolution, with the arrest of Miguel Enrique Salguero Olivares, bringing a measure of closure to the family and community. However, key questions still remain open, including the motive behind the murder and whether justice will be fully served. The family of Faith Danielle Hedgepeth has stated that they will continue to advocate for victims' rights and support organizations that work to prevent similar tragedies from occurring. As the years pass, the memory of Faith Danielle Hedgepeth will endure. Consequences of violence and the importance of perseverance in the pursuit of justice. On a shelf in the Hedgepeth of Faith Danielle Hedgepeth remains a poignant reminder of the life that was lost.